Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Real Talk. I am Sean Brown, and here today we are with True Moua, who I hope I said her last name right. I feel like I sometimes mess it up and sometimes don't, but True is one of my good friends, and she is an amazingly talented, kind of creative, whimsical photographer. And so I'm super happy to have her on here to kind of talk about her journey and that sort of thing. So welcome to Real Talk.
Thanks, Sean. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you on. So give a little bit of background about yourself, kind of where you're located, what you specialize in, just kind of like the stuff that people want to know about your background.
Well, I'm located in Alaska. It's in Wisconsin, western part of Wisconsin. I I specialize in senior portraits, but I take more of a creative approach to it, more of an artistic approach. So I'm not doing the traditional. I am doing the traditional portraits, but I do like to add the creative, aspect to it as well. I started kind of shooting back in 2012 when I kind of just picked up my camera and was photographing my children. Kind of just fell in love with it, and then basically just kind of took off from there. So in 2014, I decided to tackle this on full time, and here I am.
And now you're like a crazy talented photographer who started like literally just a few years ago. And I always love seeing what work you put out because it's always it's very different than I think what the traditional senior industry is putting out, where it's more styled and artistic in that sense. So I love how you incorporate that into your work.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
So kind of when you got started, you obviously said like within the last three, I guess almost fourth official year, kind of full time when you stepped away from your previous job. So can you kind of tell maybe people who are maybe going through a similar process where they're like, I really want to either transition full time in photography or kind of make photography more of a job, kind of what was the struggles or kind of what did you have to overcome when you were transitioning from your job as a dental assistant to now a full-time, successful, thriving photographer?
I'm a mother of three, if people don't know. And so trying to work full-time and shooting full-time, basically, it was supposed to be part-time, but I was basically shooting every day, plus working every day. And then we all know like the endless editing and sessions and all of that. And so in 2014, when my schedule, I was probably like July, and I was already booking for the following year. And I really just had to decide, like, I honestly just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do all three jobs. And it definitely is a scary thing. I don't think giving up something that gives you stability and comfort to going into something like photography and running your own business where you don't know if you're going to get a weekly paycheck or monthly paycheck, or if you're going to book clients the following year. I think that is definitely a scary thing to do, but you really have to believe in yourself, and you just, it's all about just being happy doing what you really want to do. And so I really had to sit down and think, could I give up 16 years of dental where I felt comfortable and stable, and I knew I was going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks, or do I just, go for it? And I did. I mean, it was probably the scariest decision of my life ever. Even scarier than when you're deciding on like what you want to go into for school, when you're going to school, like what do you want to be? Because it all, it can change. But I definitely feel like it was the right decision. And I wouldn't change that now. I just would encourage everybody to, whoever is wanting, who is in that same position right now, to really think about where do they see themselves in 5 years? Are they still going to be happy doing what they are wanting to do? I guess 5 years from when they're trying to decide.
Yeah. Well, I think it just kind of boils down to what you said is do what makes you happy. And it's like, if you're like dreading going into your 9 to 5 every day, it's like, what are you doing? Because it's like, you're not thriving in life. You might be thriving financially in some regards, but it's like in life, it's a completely different kind of aspect where I think that you kind of hit it right on the head, is like, do what makes you happy ultimately.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, it definitely takes a lot of effort. I mean, it's not, you can't just say, I want to do something and then expect it to just fall into your hands. I mean, you're definitely putting a lot of work towards whatever your goals may be.
Yeah, and especially you, where it's like it seems like you're shooting like every single day, which I can't even fathom. And especially like me in the Pacific Northwest, where I mean, it's pretty much rain quite a bit of the time. However, you have kind of really cultivated a following in not just your area, but also people who drive to you for kind of your Four Seasons stuff. So when was it in your business where you're like, okay, I need to have some sort of kind of evergreen income? How can I do this? And kind of like, I guess, what was kind of the initial idea that you had where you're like, I want to do this Four Seasons stuff and shoot all year round?
I basically started that right away when I decided I was going to launch full time. I had been, when I started, I picked up my camera in 2012 and I really didn't know anything about photography or even really running a business. I basically just kind of fell into it. And so I didn't really have time to explore. I just kind of went in, shot the clients, did what I was supposed to technically do. And so I kind of used the winter months and spring months where I didn't have clients to really explore and learn and try different things. And those are the sessions that I really fell in love with. And that's when I really discovered who I was as a photographer and an artist. And so when I was thinking about launching, I obviously had to figure out a way where I could do this full time, because being in Wisconsin and with Four Seasons, most clients are not wanting to shoot in spring where it's wet. They're not wanting to shoot before their senior year. And we actually have a deadline here. I don't know how it is with you guys, but we have a deadline. So I basically have from.
And when you say deadline, that's like a yearbook deadline, right?
Yearbook deadline, correct. So most of the kids are not wanting to actually do their senior portraits until they become a senior, or at least the summer before, and then we get pictures, September, October. Some have till November, and so I basically just had to find a way to keep myself busy, keep an income coming, and I thought, well, people are loving these spring shoots because you don't. Typically they're not wanting to book a spring session and they can't do it after because of the school deadline. And so giving them the option to kind of split up their session and do a short shoot every season was a great way to do that, where they could get spring pictures and they could get winter pictures and fall pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you do that. And it's kind of I guess it was born out of necessity almost, where you're like, I need to make money in these off months. So it's like, what can I do? So I think it comes down to people figuring out what are other ways that they can generate income. It might not be shooting all season, but maybe maybe it is, and doing some sort of like, I don't know, studio shoots if you're in an area where it's like just not feasible to go outside or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely hard to go out in the winter here, but we do.
Yeah, you must be freezing, because it's like, I think it's cold in like the Portland, Oregon area, and then I see you trekking through like 2.5 feet of snow to shoot these amazing ball gown dresses. So that's pretty cool. But kind of going off of that, I guess people who follow you are probably used to the big like flowy dresses and that sort of thing. And I've even sent my senior clients to your Instagram when they're like, I want to do something whimsical, or like I want to do something that's like different, like in the water. And I was like, all right, you gotta check out my friend True, just because her feed is like inspiration galore. So where do you kind of draw that creative inspiration from, or what inspires you to go out and create these magical kind of whimsical creative portraits?
I really can't even give you an answer to that. I really can't. Sometimes it can be, I mean, I guess I feel like with longer dresses, I can create more of that fairy tale, that whimsical, that ethereal, that the girls are kind of wanting to go, that they're wanting to work into their portraits. But for me, I almost feel like I don't even get my inspiration until I'm actually on set and I've actually seen my canvas. So I never know what I'm doing. I may have a general idea, by pulling maybe together a mood board, but I never actually know what's going to happen until I get out there. And it could be the creek that we're by, or the bluffs in the back, or the branches, or whatever it may be, that will kind of just draw in inspiration and then have that shoot just kind of all come together. But I think, I guess if I really had I guess with the like big ball gowns and the big long dresses, that basically started because of the winter shoots. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to, it doesn't make sense, to have a short dress in the middle of winter. And
Unless you're a crazy person, and then it does, but
yeah, but most people aren't going to walk around, half dressed. And so that's kind of where it started was, okay, we want to do a winter shoot, but what would work? What is ideal for a winter session that can give us something different than the traditional, jacket and
yeah.
scarf? And that's kind of where it started. And I basically just kind of fell in love with like the longer dresses and felt like it was easier to kind of play with and get creative with. And then from there, my clients really just saw that that was an option. And now I don't have to tell anyone to bring dresses. They come prepared and ready, to bring their dresses and do something fun and creative.
And did you find that that was kind of on you from a client education side, educating them that these are the types of clothes they should bring? Or did you find that it was more of something that maybe you started posting on Instagram and they just saw it and they just kind of assumed that this is what they were supposed to do?
It's kind of both, but it definitely starts from me. I do send all the girls inspiration. I work very closely with them on styling, especially with the creative portion of it. And my clients still do the traditional, they're still bringing regular clothes, and we're still working that into their session. But I just work closely with them, especially with the style, the creative portion of it, because for me to have it make sense, it has to make sense. And most of these girls don't exactly know. They may have a prom dress that might not necessarily work for what they're going for, but maybe they had one that they wore to homecoming, or they were, last year or whatever. So it starts with me, but they are also seeing it on my feed, in my Instagram. They're seeing that girls are bringing it, and that's what's inspiring them to want to also do it. And so they kind of, are pulling outfits from what they see on my feed, and then I'm working with them as well on, what to bring and what to add.
Yeah, and I think that especially when people are getting started, they're going to struggle. They're like, I don't even know like where to find these dresses. So it's like, especially like when I'm doing these shoots, it's like often I'll put out, say, a model call and hope that somebody has a dress that's similar to what I'm looking for. However, that's not always the case. So kind of what are like maybe like one or two resources that you initially started using that was like kind of, okay, this is going to fit my vision and it's not going to break the bank?
I'm a huge eBayer. Like I buy a lot of my stuff off of eBay. One, because it's something completely different than what you're gonna find. Not completely different, but I'm able to find pieces that you wouldn't necessarily find running to the mall. And I like working like unique pieces into especially when I'm doing something creative. I definitely want it to be something different that's going to stand out from everybody else, because we all have Sherry Hill dresses, and they're all beautiful, and I want my girls to go ahead and bring their own pieces and use it. But if they're looking for something different and unique, I typically will send them to eBay, and just use a lot of like keywords. So like if I'm looking for something maybe more princessy and old vintage antique, maybe 1800s theme, like I'll put in all of those keywords in my search. And that's kind of how I find a lot of my pieces. Or I have, when I was actually still working in dental, I would have patients actually, bring in pieces just because they knew like that's what they did. And so they would bring me these neat pieces that they had been sitting in their closets, or, just laying around, that they thought I could maybe do something with. And so I didn't do a lot of purchasing for myself in the beginning. I got a lot of stuff just from friends and people I knew, and did very little with eBay.
Yeah, and I think that also it's like one of my favorite dresses that I've ever shot was like a $20 Goodwill dress. And so it's like, I think going the cheap route, sometimes you can be like, oh, the material isn't going to be that great or anything, but it's like you're using it for like maybe 30 minutes of your like hour and a half, 2 hour shoot. So you don't need to have amazing material that's going to hold up and is really quality. But I think also going along that is like figuring out what you already have in your closet. Like you said, people were bringing you stuff, and how can you add to that, whether that be a piece of fabric from a clothing store where it's like I've clothespin like 18 feet of fabric to a dress to make it long and flowy and that sort of thing. So it's like, I think it just kind of comes down to a combination of doing it kind of on a budget friendly kind of idea, whether that be eBay, Goodwill, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely encourage people to get creative with it because, like you said, it only has to last for the few shots.
Yeah.
I've had stuff that will literally fall apart as I'm trying to shoot it.
Yep, I've been there. It's like you're duct taping it back together, and yeah.
I always carry like a bag with like clips and safety pins and hair ties, everything that I can. There was a shoot that I did with like a piece of tulle that was kind of wrapped like all around her, and we literally just took like tiny little rubber like hair ties, and I just pulled the tulle through, and it created like these huge like I don't even know like ribbon looking things, which most people wouldn't probably think about doing, but just having those extra little accessories that you can use to change things up and really just try to like you said, be budget friendly with your wardrobe. You don't want to be like going broke,
Blowing thousands of dollars on dresses you shoot like 2 times. Yeah,
you can do that. That's wonderful, but I definitely am not in that place where I can be spending that kind of money on wardrobe. So I think that's really pushed me to try to be as creative as I possibly can.
Yeah, and so you're smarter because you carry like clips and stuff, whereas I'm like, I'm just gonna carry one roll of duct tape and hope that the duct tape fixes the issues.
I'll add duct tape to my bag because I don't have that right now.
I always do like duct tape or gaffer's tape, so it's like it's definitely I come in with the concept where it's like, cool, I'm gonna be photoshopping a little bit of this out because it looks not great. So you definitely have the better idea with like clips and that sort of thing.
And even with that, sometimes I'm having to Photoshop. So, but keeping that in mind when you're shooting as well, where you need. I mean, I had one, where it was this beautiful, like 1800s top, and I don't know what people ate back then, but they're literally like the size of sticks.
Yeah.
And this Gale is like a 00, super super tiny, but this shirt wouldn't even like wrap around her chest. So all of the shots that we took of her was basically from the side or the back. I couldn't shoot the front of it, but just knowing like that's okay. You're still able to create that piece that you're making. You just have to improvise a little bit. So
yeah, absolutely. And kind of touching on, I think, you and your brand, where it's like everybody thinks of True and hiking to like it looks like you hiked into like these magical forests with big dresses, and then butterflies and that sort of thing. And you actually incorporated that into kind of your rebrand and kind of your brand film. So kind of what did you, I guess, what was the initial thoughts when you underwent the rebrand from it? It was what True Moua Photography to True Creative Portraits, and you hired Jackie Palmer, who did an amazing brand film for you. So when was the moment where you're like, I need to rebrand? Like maybe it was you were drawing the wrong clients, or you wanted to just even go the kind of the next step further, or what was it?
I really wanted a name that wasn't necessarily tied to me. I mean, it is tied to me, but I live in a really small town, and actually it sounds silly, but I really didn't want my name just like floating out there and having, I would run to the grocery store or the gas station and people would look at me like, wait.
Unfortunately, there aren't many people named True in the world, so yeah.
And so, I wanted one to kind of step away from that. I mean, it's on a very small scale, not like somebody famous or anything like that, but I just wanted that separation a little bit. And, I didn't want, people to feel weird around me or feel like they had to be different or even really just kind of know who I was. Like, I do want people to know who I am, but I don't necessarily want it everywhere that I go in this tiny little town. Like we have a population of like 7,000 people, so it's really small. So that was one reason, and the other, obviously, I don't think I was really drawing the wrong clients. I feel like from the beginning, I've been very consistent to my style and like who I am, and I feel like I've drawn in the right crowd. I just with the rebranding, with that separation, I definitely wanted that, and I really just wanted something that really just said my brand all together. And so I did bring in Jackie that was actually my first branding film, is the one that she shot, and I knew like she would be able to really understand and envision what I was trying to envision for myself. So yeah, basically that's basically the only reason that I did that.
Yeah, and it turned out phenomenally. Like, if you guys haven't seen True's brand film, like, I think it's on your website, or at least it should, yeah, it should be. And it is, like, one of the most beautiful pieces of film that I've ever seen. So it definitely kind of, I think, draws to your brand. I think that speaks, too, to how important it is to realize what you're good at in your brand and really emphasize that, not in your social media, but also on your website and that sort of thing. Because you said it's like you drew in the right clients by staying consistent. So it's like if you're not drawing the right clients, I think it comes down to you're probably either A, not being consistent, or B, not producing maybe the quality of work that is drawing those clients that you want to draw in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll kind of wrap it up. We'll try and keep it short just because the other Real Talks have been running super long. So we'll try and give people a little bit of a break. But I always love kind of hearing from you and kind of touching on a few of those things that people love to hear about you. So I am going to have you ask a question to the audience, and it can be photography related. It can be life related, literally anything you want. So we'll do that. But in the meantime, where can people find you on, say, Instagram or your website? We'll also link it down below in the YouTube description.
Everything is True Creative Portraits. So my website is truecreativeportraits.com. You can find me on Facebook with the same name, True Creative Portraits, and also the same on Instagram. So it's pretty easy, and like Sean said.
Yeah, you keep it simple, which is good. It's not fragmented like some people are guilty of, like myself, where it's like different handles for like 3 different platforms because my name is so common. But I guess that's the perks of being named like True or something like that. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll end with True's question, but in the meantime, we're going to be putting out these episodes all year long. So be sure to hit the subscribe button down below if you're on YouTube. If you're on the Senior Style Guide blog, make sure to keep an eye on the blog for when we're going to be putting these out, and in the SSG Senior Style Guide Facebook group as well. So we'll be sure to update you guys whenever we put out a new episode of Real Talk. But we'll end with True and kind of your one question that you want the audience to answer in the comment section below.
I think if I had one question that I could ask, I would ask, like, what makes you unique? What makes you different? What makes you who you are as an artist? So maybe answer that for me.
I love it. Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And until the next episode of Real Talk, we'll see you guys later.
Great, thanks, John.
Yeah.